Hello everyone, this is PLG. Today we will be adding a new enemy variant to our Diablo 2 mod. The monster that we will be adding is the cat skeleton variant called Hell Horror. We'll add it alongside its archer and mage equivalent. I chose this monster specifically as it still has its color palette present in the files, which lets us add a new monster variant without having to go through the process of making a new token and partshift.dat file for it, which would make this video too long and boring. I will cover making a new monster with a new palette and token in the next episode, a kind of part 2 to this video. Anyway, let's get started. And first, what we will do is once again launch MPQ editor, but this time we will be extracting d2data.mpq, as patch_d2.mpq actually lacks the files for monster graphics. And we will extract both the list file as well as the entire data folder for what I will explain shortly. After we unpack our d2data.mpq, what we want to do is go to the work folder of our MPQ editor and copy both the list file and the data folder to the directory of a tool that I've mentioned in the setup video. That is Dr. Tester. We copy those files exactly the same as they were in the work folder, just like I do in the video. And now, as the files copy, I can explain why exactly are we doing this. Dr. Tester will let us view the graphics of the skeleton, including its different color palettes, like the palette of the returned and horror. And it will also show us in which slot is the palette we are interested in. It may sound complicated, but I will show exactly what I mean right now. And we are in Dr. Tester, which greets us with a nice format not supported in the upper left, blank windows all around, and a palette and partshift selector. That is perfectly fine, as what we need to do is to select the option to display local files. We do that by clicking on File in the upper left corner and selecting Local Path. This will load the data file present in its directory and use the list file to read its contents properly. After it has loaded, we now have an option to select a specific file on the lower left. That is, of course, that the files are written together with the path that leads to them. Let's try to view a monster. In this case, we select a random file and after global / we write in monsters. This will show us only the files present in the monsters folder of d2data, which is where all the graphics are. By picking at random, I've got the tortured souls from Act 4. Yes, they are actually considered enemies, but they are really hard to see. To fix this, we can use the zoom function right under our displayed graphic, as well as changing the background color from the options menu. And now it's visible. But let's get back on the track. What we need now is the token used by skeletons and its variants. For that, we use AFJ sheet edit. In it, just like last time, we open monstats.txt and levels.txt. For now, we will go into monstat.txt, and while we are here, I can add something I forgot to mention last time. That is, that if we right-click, there is an option to resize to fit, which, as the name suggests, resizes the cells to display the entire text present in it, useful for more visibility. Getting back to what we came for, checking what token does a monster use is very easy. We just look at the code column at the height of any variant of the skeleton, and we've got our answer. The token that the skeletons use is SK. Now, we can return to Dr. Tester and look at the different palettes that the skeletons have assigned to them. We do that by writing SK after the /monsters/ line. and selecting any of the files with a .cof extension. We can choose all the different body parts to display, change which weapon he wields in the preview, and stuff like that. But he still displays only the default palette and cannot use any other. To change that, we use the pal shift selector on the right. We just scroll down to the file which has SK in its path. And here it is. Now we can look at all the different colors our skeletons have in-game. But what is this? On slot 8 we have a color palette that looks like a halfway point between the horror and Burning Dead. That, my viewers, is the color palette of a hell horror, present at the very last slot of the skeleton's pal shift, not used by the game. But that doesn't mean that it cannot be used by the game. Let's go into AFJ sheet edit once again. In the trans level column we can see that skeleton 1 is set to 0. But why is that? Doesn't the base skeleton use slot 3 in his pal shift.dat? Well, the way that trans level chooses its pal shift is kind of janky, and instead of the exact slot from the pal shift, it takes the third slot after it. So it goes by the formula of slot plus 3 equals trans level value. And yes, thanks to this, the first two palettes are completely unusable. Thanks, Blizzard. But anyway, using this formula, or simply by looking at what the next number after the horror will be, we can deduce that the palette of our hell horror can be used by entering the value of 5 in the trans level column of our new monster. So, let's make some room for it in monstats.txt. And we do that by right-clicking and then unraveling row operations and selecting Add Rows. For now, let's add a single row. That action will add a single new row to the bottom of monstats.txt. Now, let's copy the entire row from one of the already existing skeletons and paste it in our new row at the bottom. Alright, and now what we need to do before anything else is to change the HCIDX to the next number after the last one. In this case, it's 734. And we also have to set the correct palette for our hell horror. So we set trans level to 5. And now, after we set this up, we can adjust its stats to whatever fits our needs. I won't be going over the entirety of how I set its stats, as the previous video focuses on this. Instead, I will just show these stats right next to him and only show footage of editing a couple of things I haven't explained in the last video. Oh, and an important thing, change its ID to something different than Skeleton 5. As two monsters with the same ID cause problems. I recommend changing it to something like Skeleton 66. Changing the rarity column affects how common the monster is. The higher the number, the more common is the monster. The threat column lets you set whether this monster is attacked by your mercenary first or last. The higher the threat, the higher the priority. A1/2th sets the attack rating of the monster, which is the chance that its attack will actually hit. After we have changed the stats to our liking, we can proceed to add our new skeletons to... where else than the Bloodmore, of course. And let's hop right into the game and check our changes. Wait, why are there burning souls? Did we give our monster an incorrect ID? Did we break something while changing the stats? Well, it's none of those. It's actually a mistake made by Blizzard. Let's get back to monstats.txt. Remember how I said to change the ID of the monster, or otherwise we may encounter weird problems? Well, Blizzard did exactly that. They put two monsters with the same ID. The culprit is CR Lancer 8. The second one more specifically. What we have to do is simply locate it and change it to CR Lancer 9. Now, all should work perfectly. So, let's check! It's a good idea to playtest with a character that actually can beat the monster we added. Let's use the assassin I have for playtesting my own mod. And here they are, in all of their bony glory. But they are currently called right-click to spawn. Well, that is completely wrong. Why is that? And the answer is that we forgot to add their name to the strings table of our game. And you know what that means? The debut of another tool, AFJ Table Edit. But first, we need to actually have the language files in the data folder used by our game. For that, we just copy the local folder from where we exported our D2 data at the beginning of this episode, and we paste it in the data folder of our Diablo 2. After we do that, we should enter this folder and go to LNG and enter the folder with the language our game uses. I'll enter both the English as well as the Polish folders. And once we're inside, we can double-click the string.tbl file and select AFJ Table Edit as the program that opens it. I've already done it. Using AFJ Table Edit, we can very easily add a new entry, at least in English. We just click the plus and simply copy the name of our monster from name string in monstats.txt and paste it in the enter name for new index window. Afterwards, we write or paste the name we want to be displayed in the game. Simple as that. As for other languages, some of them may have a small problem. More specifically, those that use special characters, like the Polish eś, ci, on, etc., as those letters cannot be normally written in the box for the in-game name, and use very specific combinations of symbols. What I'd recommend doing is using the search function, the binoculars icon and the one on the right to them, to look for a monster using this letter. In my case, in Polish, Hell Horror translates to piekielny kościej, so it has the troublesome eś in there. Thankfully, the normal horror is called kościej, and we can nicely copy the letter from there. But for this, I also recommend to paste it somewhere to your notepad, as you may want to have access to it later. Okay, now that we have established why our Hell Horror displayed the wrong name and have properly fixed it, why not also add friends for him? The friends I'm talking about are obviously his archer and mage variants. While we are still in AFJ Table Edit, let's add the entries in here first. After finishing it up, do not close AFJ Table Edit just yet. We'll use index names we set for them here to paste them into our monstats.txt. It's the easiest way, as the entry in the index and the entry in name string has to be exactly the same, and it's of course case sensitive. With the mage variants and archers, we do pretty much the same thing as with the base warrior skeleton variant. We simply copy the rows of the proper mage and paste them at the newly created rows at the bottom. Next, we adjust their stats. I'll skip this part in the video as it's very long and boring. After that, let's place them in the mon columns in levels.txt, as well as adjust the nummon to let all of them spawn. Afterwards, we simply launch the game and explore the Bloodmoor in search of our newly added hell horrors. Here are our hell horror fire mages, working perfectly fine, with the proper name we set for them. As you may see, both the lightning and cold mages also work. Right next to them was actually a group of poison mages. They also seem to have no problems. Here are warrior hell horrors. And there are the archers, which, as may be expected, also perfectly work. Now, the only thing that is left to do with them is to place them wherever you want. In today's video, we have added a new variant of the skeleton to our mod. We have adjusted his stats and gave him mage and archer friends. We also fixed a bug that Blizzard left in monstats.txt, which kept us from adding any new monster. But what we have done today is not the entire process of adding a new monster, as I only showcased how to add it as a new entry in monstats.txt. As for the second part of this episode, we will be adding a new monster variant from scratch. That is, we will be adding a new variant of the blunderboars, which appeared in Act 2 up to Act 4. The variant we will be adding for them is an ogre that will be spawning in Act 1. We will cover the entire process, including creating a new color palette for him. Doing this is a bit more advanced than what we have done today, so it will be covered in the next video. If you had any problems following this guide, or you have some suggestions for an additional monster to add in the next video, please write it down in the comments, and I will surely answer them. Also, when suggesting an additional variant of the blunderboar for the next video, please keep in mind that a maximum of 5 can be added without having to do double the work. So please suggest up to 4 additional monsters per comment, and write what colors they should have and where they should appear. I will choose the most interesting ideas and add them in the next video. Bye!